Good afternoon. My name is Alex Turner, and I am a business development manager for Associate Gulf Coast Management. And I appreciate you listening to our Staying Home and Staying Connected webinar series. While I know many of our favorite places are starting to open back up, we are still offering our board member education from the safety of your own living room and at a time that works best for you. At Associa, we have shifted our primary focus to hurricane preparation. And today, we're so excited to have Megan Chapman and Kyle Bosch from ATAC Adjusters here with us. They're going to tell us about their company and how they can benefit your association. So welcome, Megan and Kyle, and thanks for chatting with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, Alex.
So tell us a little bit about your company and definitely start with the areas that you cover, because this webinar is going to cover a good portion of from, let's say, just call it just below Orlando down to Marco Island.
Yeah, so we're public adjusters. We're licensed with the state of Florida. Megan and I are directors of business development. We help represent condos and condo boards and property management groups in the event of a catastrophe. Now, that catastrophe can be as small as a pipe break to a small unit fire to as large as a hurricane, like we were talking about. And today, Megan and I really wanted to talk about how things are going to kind of pan out with the whole COVID-19 thing that's presented itself. I'm sure everyone's heard COVID-19 till they're blue in the face, but it's really going to have a pretty dramatic effect on how we're going to have to go about hurricane season, because as Megan and I will go into, we've already seen the effect on large scale events during this whole COVID thing and how people respond. So as we all know, hurricane season starts June 1st and it goes out to November 30th. And before June 2nd, there's already been 3 named storms. And as we've always heard from the meteorologists, every season is obviously going to be the worst hurricane season. But it's very, very unusual to see this much activity this early in the season. They're kind of contributed to the warming of the Gulf. The Gulf is at a record high for warmth, and also the shear winds coming off the Cape of Africa. So obviously everybody says it's going to be a very active season, but it's very, very unprecedented to have 3 named storms prior to June 2nd. So having a plan in place and having a team that properly supports you is going to be crucial during this time. So as I was speaking about the COVID-19 impact, Megan and I were actually in the Panhandle as well as in Naples during those brush fires, helping out some of our clients during these very, very dramatic events that have happened due to the massive drought about a month or so back. What we saw, typically what we do as a company is when we're out there representing our clients and our claims and our policyholders, we will go to the disaster relief areas that the Red Cross and FEMA will put out. Typically, people that lose their home, they're going to go to these disaster relief areas to kind of reconvene, safe place to be, and a place where they can kind of make their next steps. Megan and I went to both, and there was about, I want to say 500 to 1,000 people affected in both instances, and there was not a single person at either of these disaster relief stations because of the COVID-19. That's crazy to us. There was not a single person, and so during this this time of this hurricane season, being able to have being able to take care of and prioritize the elderly, your physically and mentally challenged tenants, and making sure that they have the proper plans in order from friends and family to be able to help facilitate them and take care of them in the event of a hurricane or a tropical storm where there will be loss of power is going to be crucial.
Kyle, are you finding that the
Yeah, this is really
specific counties are taking into account for COVID and coming up with plans that maybe we can find on their websites?
Not particularly when it comes to their planning, because a lot of it has to do with FEMA, and it's on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, with hurricanes being as unprecedented and unpredictable as they are, it's going to be very difficult. With the brush fires, it kind of gave us an insight into think, how the heck are we going to deal with this in the event of a hurricane hitting? Because that's 500 to 1,000 people. That's not 10, 20, 30,000 people that are affected. So it's going to be imperative for boards and property managers to put that in kind of the back of their mind to think about how they're going to navigate these strange times.
It's important to really have those conversations now before the storms really, like I've seen they've already started hitting, but really before to have a plan in place and have those conversations with those residents and make sure that they have friends or family that they are already ready to go to and they've had that conversation and they're prepared for when that day comes. So it's important those conversations happen now versus when the storm's barreling on down on us.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that kind of leads us into our next slide. Obviously, preparation is key. Prior to becoming a public adjuster, I was a professional football player, and what we always like to say is that whenever the bullets start flying, always go back to the game plan. There's going to be things that were during the hurricane season and during the hurricane that you're not going to be able to take into account for it because it's just so unprecedented. But having the key pillars in place to kind of refer to in the event of a storm is crucial.
I've been in the insurance industry for about 15 years and, you can always try to prepare for the best, but, back in 2018 when we had Florence barreling down on the Carolinas, it looked like it was going to hit Category 4, Category 5, a direct hit. They had plenty of time to evacuate and everyone prepared for this monstrosity of a storm. And then by the time it hit the coast, it was, a strong Category 1, low 2. So, they were expecting the worst, ended up not being much. And then we have a couple weeks later, Michael coming up the Gulf. It's nothing. It's not that big. They didn't really evacuate much. They didn't really prepare. And then all of a sudden it's wiping out Mexico Beach as a Category 5 and one of the most historic storms we've ever had. So it's unpredictable. So we have to prepare ahead of time because you just never know what these storms are going to bring.
Yeah, and that brings us into the do's before the storm. Obviously, you're going to want to have those at-risk residents have a game plan in place for them because you don't want them to be stuck and marooned in their condo unit for a couple weeks or a couple days with no AC, no way to get up and down the stairs. You're going to want to have proper coverage. You're going to want to make sure that your policy review happens and you guys are covered in every aspect. We offer complimentary policy review for all board members as well as property management groups, going over and identifying deficiencies that in the case of a hurricane or any sort of catastrophe thereafter, that you guys will be properly covered and not hung out to dry. And also, you're going to want to document the property. Take photos up and down, as Megan can talk to. Being able to have those photos to refer back to when trying to build your case against the insurance company is crucial because there is going to be a lot of questions that are going to arise about basically the quality of the building, things along those lines. Megan, you can kind of, from your perspective, go into a little bit more detail.
Yeah, so it's the pictures and the videos are really important because the whole purpose of the claim policy in the event of a disaster or catastrophe is to bring the property back to pre-loss condition. So those pictures and those videos give you proof. They give you the evidence to the insurance companies of what that pre-loss condition was. It also can eliminate any conversation for possible coverage issues such as wear and tear or lack of maintenance or things like that. So the pictures and videos really do capture the pre-loss condition, which is imperative for the after damage effects.
One of the things that we've been telling our people is to make sure, like we talked about the pre-loss conditions, but getting drones up to take a look at their roofs. And another thing that's happening is a lot of the people with Irma claims, this just became sort of the last time or the last what do we call it, the deadline for filing those claims. So you have to be able to distinguish between what was an Irma claim and what may be a new claim coming up for the next hurricane.
Yeah, that's really important, especially if a storm hits at the same area that a prior storm hit, which, is going to be like the Naples, Fort Myers area or up on the Panhandle. Even things, it's not that far back. I mean, we even had issues come up in Irma from insurance companies trying to say that it was a Charlie damage. So, unfortunately that's important to document so that we can distinguish, what's new and what's old, or if the insurance company tries to say something wasn't repaired that was already compensated for. So yeah, that's extremely important because you have a 3-year window to be able to claim all damages when a hurricane hits. So it's important to get those done and to make sure that this is new damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And then piggybacking off of that, during the storm, obviously during the storm, safety is key. Stay inside, follow all evacuation orders, do not go outside. You're gonna have 100-mile-an-hour winds plus, and having debris flying all over the place. You're basically gonna be sitting in a hornet's nest. So stay in a safe area, follow all evacuation orders, and make sure you contact all emergency organizations that are necessary to contact. After the storm is when you really need to, get on your horse. The first 48 hours after a loss occurs is going to be your sweet zone. There's going to be a lot of things happening. Communication is key. Prior to the storm happening, you're going to have your team in place. You're going to have your restoration guy. You're going to have your elevator guy. You're going to have your HVAC guy. You're going to have your public adjusting team, all set in order. While the storm is happening, your team should be reaching out to you if you have a good contact and a good relationship with them, to make sure that necessary steps will be taken once the storm subsides. Being able to identify any potential life safety issues, making sure you don't have, if you have stucco, roof tiles falling off, you want to make sure after the storm everybody's safe and not at danger.
And it's really important too, after the storm, that we mitigate damage. You can't do any permanent repairs. You have to preserve all evidence so that the insurance companies come out and can document the damage. But the policies all read that the duties or the conditions after the loss that you also have to mitigate, which means boarding up windows, tarping roofs, things like that. So there's a fine line of mitigation versus repair. So it's important to have somebody there that can help navigate on what your true duties are so that you don't end up hurting the claim settlement in the long run. So there's really a fine line of mitigating versus starting repairs.
That's a great point. And something, again, we always are preaching to both our clients and people who may not be an associate client that are listening to this. One of the benefits of being an associate client is we have a team that you get on a priority list for, and that will come get you back to safe. That's what we call it. They're not going to, no major repairs like you just said, Megan, but we're going to get you back to safe and to, like you said, mitigate any continued damage that might happen. So
that's so important.
Great point.
And just something we like to say, as public adjusters, you're filing a claim against your insurance company. You won't let the IRS do your taxes. You won't go to court without a lawyer. So when you do incur a loss, it shouldn't be any different. You should want to be represented by a public adjuster so they can properly document and make sure that you are getting what you deserve through that claim. So like we said, after the event, do not panic. You have your plan in place. Associate, if you're an associate client, you can have that emergency repair coming in, getting you to safe. You've already partnered with a public adjuster who's going to come out, document all the damage, and you need to be very careful after the event happens on what you say. You do not want to provide too much information when you're dealing with the insurance company, because words matter. Anything you say to the insurance company is being documented, recorded, and has the potential to bite you in the butt if there is any sort of discrepancies that are found within the policy. Megan, you could speak to this a little bit too.
Yeah, words really matter. It's the simplest thing can really throw off coverage, or can give pause to an insurance company if you allude to a maintenance issue or allude to something that's maybe deteriorating. It doesn't sound like a harmful word, but it's to investigate further and possibly deny coverage. So it's really important to have an advocate there that can represent the board, the condo association, that understands the policy and what's covered, so that we, don't say the wrong thing.
So as we've kind of spoke to it, after the incident, you want to assemble your team. Associate is going to have your emergency services come. They're going to be able to board up those windows, make sure that everything is in a safe, getting you to safe. Then you're going to want to get with your policyholder adjuster during the storm, and thereafter they're going to schedule time with you to get out and actually survey the property, get their engineers out there, get their adjusting team out there to make sure they document every single nook and cranny. Security, not a lot of people think about this, but when you think about the liability that goes along with the stucco and the roofing tiles that are falling, you have a 15, 20-pound roof tile falling off a 20-story building. That could cause a lot of damage. Now, obviously, you want to get a hold of your electrician, make sure you can get your electricity up and running, your elevator company, make sure your elevator is running functionally, and then what I personally think is the most important is the air conditioning. just because without air conditioning after these big events and you have that 100% humidity and the sun beating down, it can get brutal really quick.
And really, this team is just important to have in place beforehand, like you mentioned, Alex, because everyone's going to be calling these people when the storms hit. So you want to be the top of their list and one of the first places that they go to. So it's really important to have those relationships in place before.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And that's after the claim hit, after you experience a loss, and after the hurricane subsides, you have a few options, and you kind of think about, well, how should I handle my claim? Well, the insurance company and their adjustment team, they're going to come out and they're going to document the claim in favor of the insurance company. Obviously, your loss is an expense to the insurance company, so they're going to try to mitigate as much spend as possible. Some people will say, well, my agent will take care of me. Well, your agent is there as a broker. They're trying to broker the amount of insurance. They're not bad people. You may have known them for 20, 30 years, but their job ends once you sign the policy and pay the premiums. Property managers, they have a lot on their plate to begin with. The big thing with property managers is they're not insurance experts, and a lot of them, as I'm sure Alex can allude to, don't want to be. It's not their job to be masters of insurance and being able to mitigate this claim policy. They're just trying to get it back to normal. Restoration contractors, their job is to get, once you're paid by the insurance company and properly paid, that's when you want to hire a restoration company to fix your property and get you back to where you need to be. And then obviously what we do as public adjusters, we will represent you and take the entire insurance claim out of your guys' hand. You guys will be in the loop the entire time, but instead of the board and the property managers having to work and document and work with the insurance company, we take care of every single step from beginning to end and properly document and make sure that we maximize your claim, because it's documented with the state of Florida, the OPAGA report. On average, public adjusters get 727 or 747%, somewhere in that ballpark, more than what the insurance company offers. So it's crucial after a hurricane claim to partner with a reputable public adjuster.
Everyone on this list has a important function and a job, but they all have full-time jobs. So each of those 1 through 4 have a place in a claim, or in a policy. But again, they all have full-time jobs that are extremely important. But number 5, as a public adjuster, is the only one that the full-time job is advocating on behalf of the insured.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, managing a successful outcome for your claim is basically a broad overview. You got to have a plan in place. You got to be on the ball, have those relationships built up. You have to understand your insurance policy, and you have to have those vendor contacts. You got to be able to have those relationships in place, so when you guys do experience a loss, you have that first come, first serve sort of front of mind with those vendors and with those partnerships already put in place, so you're not playing catch up. And obviously, if you guys have any other questions or comments, you can contact Megan or I. My name is Kyle Bosch. It's my phone number and my email, and I cover everything from Sarasota down to Marco Island, as well as South Beach up to Pompano Beach. And Megan covers everything from Sarasota basically up to Orlando. So if you guys have any questions or comments, never hesitate to reach out if you have any questions when it comes to your insurance coverage or what public adjusters do.
Thank you so much, Kyle and Megan. This is great information, and I love doing these because I always learn something every time, which is awesome. I just have a few things that I want to just based on what we talked about today. So typically when we're talking about public adjusters, it seems to always be around the hurricane season, but yeah, thank you for reminding us that could be for any kind of disaster, whether it be fire or just flood from whatever it may be, the sprinklers or whatever the situation. So that's great to know as well. One quick question: when the fee that's charged by the public adjuster, is that something that can be worked into the claim or no?
Yeah, in essence, what we do as public adjusters is we take a percentage of the claim. That being said, we've been in business for 37 years. If you go on our Google reviews, you go and look us up, testimonials, etc. We have never had a customer or a client that we've worked with give us a negative review. we always get more than the insurance company will ever be able, that we can't guarantee it, but more than what the insurance company offers. So we take a small percentage of it, and then we maximize the claim and get the claimant more than the insurance company offers, by and large.
Sure. And that was kind of going to be my point, because I think a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but many of the associations, they don't think the public adjuster route because they don't want to spend what they consider spending the money on it. And, or they want to rely on their insurance agent, or they think their manager can do it. And again, I just want to speak to that, obviously on a personal level, is when your manager is managing 8 properties that have all been hit by hurricanes, they don't have the bandwidth or the knowledge to handle this. They're happy to work with your agent or your adjuster to get them all the info they need, but they just don't have the bandwidth to do this in the middle of a hurricane. But I want to just say one thing, that I had a community who Irma needed a roof replacement, and the insurance company wanted to do repairs here and there on the roof with some leftover tiles that have been sitting around, and they that was not satisfactory to the board, so they got a public adjuster, and it went from, they were going to give them $5,000, it went to $37,000. So for the complete repair and everything they needed. So it really does make a big difference. So for whatever the small percentage is 100% worth it.
Yeah,
we always say you can get 100% of $50,000, or you can get 90% of $100,000. Would you rather have 50,000 or 90,000? There's a huge benefit of what we do. So yes, obviously everything has a fee, but our job is to maximize the settlement, and so it's not an out-of-pocket expense.
Right.
It comes, like I said, off of the claim, but we always get a significant, not, we can't always say always, but the reality is public adjusters get significantly more. They did like Kyle alluded to, the OPAGA report. It's been documented in research that public adjusters, because of their knowledge of policy and knowledge of the claim process, we can go in and have an educated conversation with the insurance company and truly negotiate on things that are a fair settlement. And it's going to be higher than what an average individual who isn't familiar with insurance can typically get. So we do have, and unfortunately, because of years past, there's been sometimes a bad connotation that comes with public adjusters, and Kyle and I really want to try to change that narrative, because we can be a huge asset and a great partnership for condos and associations to really be able to help them maximize their settlements and claims, from anywhere from a pipe break to fire to hurricane, anything in between.
That's great. And Megan, kind of what we talked about with getting your team in place, is it recommended that we develop a relationship with a public adjuster in advance of a storm, or is that just something that we can just call you when it happens and we can hit the ground running from there? Or Kyle?
Yeah, definitely something that we're going to want to have in place prior to a storm hitting. What we're doing is kind of revolutionary in the sphere of public adjusting because of that bad connotation. It's hurricane season, time to call the public adjusters. What Megan and I have been tasked with our company, Altieri Transco, it's something that our founder, who founded FAPIA, which is the Florida Independent Public Adjusters. It's kind of revolutionary because we want to get in, talk to your board members, talk to these property management groups, and do these policy reviews and help these boards out prior to a storm hitting. Because the reason why we're such a reputable company, and we're not like a lot of these fly-by-night public adjusting firms, is that we will walk away from a claim if we can't help you. If you guys bring us a insurance claim and it's $100,000 and the insurance company's only going to give you $100,000, we're going to look at it and be like, well, that's the most you're going to get. That they're not paying you any more than that, no matter what we do. So it's not like we're going to take any money that we don't add value to. So definitely having that in place. We have a pre-loss agreement that basically just puts us on retainer. Anytime you have a claim, all it says is just give us a call. It's that simple, and that's really just something that we're really spearheading here at our company in the industry as a whole.
Right. It's just one less thing to think about when it happens, when it goes down, is who you're calling. You know in advance who all your contacts are. Well, thank you guys so much for all of the great information you've given us today. And again, Kyle and Megan's information is up on the screen. And for those of you who have taken the time to watch this, we appreciate your dedication to your community and the desire to be the best board member possible. And if you are interested in any specific education that you haven't seen from us yet, please let me know and I'll arrange for a webinar or panel discussion on that topic. And remember, I want to be of service to you, so please give me a shout if you need a vendor contact, like we talked about education or information on our management services. But everyone have a great day, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us, Alex.